Now we are going to create a deployment from here, from the administrator page, for example, from workloads. Within workloads, we select deployment, and within deployment, we click here on the Create Deployment button. Well, as with other objects, in this case, we have a wizard that will allow us to create the deployment in two ways: with the wizard itself or in the traditional way with the YAML. We see that here I have these two possibilities. One is to do it from the YAML, as we have done with the pod. You see that help is also here on the right, in case we want to see each of these components. The other way would be to do it in form mode. We have to be careful because the form does not have all the possibilities that the YAML has. That is, if I want to make a very complete deployment with many options, properties and characteristics, I will have to continue using YAML. But if what I want to do is a simple one, for example, I'm going to call it D2 here, because I can do it here through the form. Regarding the deployment strategy, you already know that there are two at the Kubernetes level. They are recreate, that is, completely replace all the pods in the deployment with each update, or doing a rolling update, which would allow us to update the old pods little by little. This is a topic I cover a lot in my Kubernetes course, and I recommend that you give it a review so you can see how it works. But well, here you see the properties of this modification strategy, and then here we're going to specify that we want to take an image. Now, as you see, it's proposing this to me. It's something we will see later. Image of the private registry, of the internal registry that we have in Openshift, which has also been released previously. It's here at image registry, Openshift image registry, SVC 5000, and then this URL. You see that it's here calling HTTPD. We will see it later. But one of the advantages of using the components, the images from Openshift's own registry, is that they do not have permission problems, the ones that I have mentioned, such as port 80, because they are simply already prepared to work well with Openshift. But in any case, here we can, instead of putting this, remove the HTTP from Docker Hub. If I don't write anything, it will always search in Docker IO. Although an administrator can change this, in principle, a newly installed or configured Openshift will search for usually within Docker IO. I can also use an internal repository. We will talk about the topic of repositories a little more calmly when we look at the part about application deployments. But for now, we are going to continue behaving as if we have Docker. Here you see that I can put some interesting properties, such as selecting the pool secret or creating new ones. Secrets, the environment variables, where I can create normal config, maps, or secret variables. In this course, we are also going to give them a review, although these are also Kubernetes objects. Then, if I want, I can specify more advanced options here. Can you see that I have a couple of options here? This happens with all objects within Openshift. The web layer. For example, if I put scaling, I can specify how many replicas I want to have and how many I want to run. I can choose if I want 1 replica or 0 replicas or wherever. And here in pause rollouts, you also see that I can pause the rollouts for this display. That is, everything it has to do with deployment updates. So well, if I leave it like this and click create, you see that we can read pending here. Now it's running. That is to say, we have verified that the component has indeed been created from here without any problem, just as we do in the command mode. Here the YAML will be ready. Here we will have the replica set that will have been created for this object. pod that will have been created for this object, the environment in which we have nothing, and the events where I can see the events that are occurring, as it also happens in all the objects of the Openshift web page. Here in the Actions button, I have access to a lot of resources to modify, add or change things. Do you remember that in the case of pods, it was not so much? There were a couple of options, however, the deployments have quite a few, and we will see some of these as we progress in the course. And of course, if we go to the developer part, in topology, we will have the two pods here. The pod that I created manually and the pod that I just created web-based. I hope it's clear